Once in a small, quiet town nestled between lush hills and a sparkling river, lived a boy named Ethan. At 17, Ethan was a dreamer, captivated by the idea of love and adventure. He had always been a good student, well-liked by his teachers, and adored by his parents, Lisa and Mark. They had dedicated their lives to providing Ethan with everything he needed: a comfortable home, education, and unconditional support. However, their nurturing nature made them unaware of the darkness slowly creeping into Ethan's heart. Ethan had fallen head over heels for a girl named Sarah. She was beautiful, charismatic, and everything he had ever wanted. They met in the summer during a local festival, and from that moment, Ethan was enchanted. Sarah had a wild spirit and an insatiable desire for thrill, and Ethan found himself drawn to her magnetic energy. However, as their relationship grew, so did Sarah's increasingly demanding nature. At first, it was little things. Sarah would want to skip school to explore the nearby woods or steal away to the river for a swim. Ethan, wanting to please her, obliged without question, but soon her requests became more extreme. She wanted him to abandon his friendships, to ignore his responsibilities, and ultimately to sever ties with his parents, whom she deemed boring and restrictive. Ethan's parents began to notice changes in him. He was often irritable, and he spent long hours away from home, either with Sarah or lost in thought. One evening, Lisa called Ethan into the living room, concern etched on her face. "Ethan, we need to talk," she said gently. "We've noticed you've been distant. Is everything all right?" Ethan's heart raced. He could feel the weight of his secret pressing down on him. He knew he had to make a choice, to protect his parents or to keep Sarah happy. He chose the latter. "Everything's fine, Mom. Just school stuff," he replied, forcing a smile. But Lisa wasn't convinced. She watched as Ethan became increasingly consumed by Sarah, who had a dark allure that both fascinated and frightened him. The deeper he fell, the more isolated he became from his parents. As weeks turned into months, Sarah's influence over Ethan grew. She introduced him to a world of reckless behavior, partying, stealing, and even dabbling in the occult. "You don't need them, Ethan," she would say, her voice smooth like honey. "You only need me. Together we can be free." One night, under the light of a full moon, Sarah proposed a shocking idea. "Let's prove our love to each other," she said, her eyes gleaming with excitement. "Let's do something really wild, something that will change everything." "What do you mean?" Ethan asked, his stomach churning. "We need to make a sacrifice," she replied, her tone ominous. "Your parents are holding you back. If you truly love me, you must let them go." Ethan's heart sank. The thought of harming his parents was unfathomable, yet the fear of losing Sarah was even greater. He knew deep down that what she was suggesting was wrong, but the intoxicating allure of love made it hard to think rationally. Days passed, and the idea of sacrifice lingered in Ethan's mind like a dark cloud. He started to think about what it would mean to sever ties with his parents completely. Would they even miss him? They had always seemed so happy, so fulfilled. Yet he could feel the growing rift between him and the life he once cherished. Finally, unable to bear the burden of his conflicting emotions, Ethan confided in Sarah. "I can't stand the thought of losing you." "What do I have to do?" he asked, desperation lacing his voice. "Trust me," she replied, her smile both beautiful and terrifying. "It'll be worth it." Ethan's heart raced as Sarah outlined her plan. It was brutal and unforgiving, but he felt compelled to comply. The night of the new moon arrived, and under the cloak of darkness, Ethan found himself standing in the clearing by the river where he and Sarah often went to escape reality. They stood together, the atmosphere thick with tension. "Are you ready?" Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan hesitated, doubt gnawing at his insides. I don't know," he stammered. "Don't think, just do it," she urged, her eyes locking onto his. "For love." With a deep breath, Ethan steeled himself. The adrenaline surged through him, and he felt alive. He needed to prove his love, to finally belong to Sarah completely. The decision he made that night shattered his soul. As the moon hung high in the sky, Ethan carried out the horrific act Sarah had convinced him to commit. The screams echoed in his ears, but the moment felt surreal, almost like a twisted dream. In that dark moment, the line between love and madness blurred completely. In the days that followed, Ethan was consumed by guilt and horror. He and Sarah became pariahs in their own town, the shadows of their actions lingering like a dark stain. The euphoria that Sarah promised never came. Instead, they were haunted by the faces of his parents. The love they had shared now turned to ashes. Ethan found himself spiraling into a pit of despair. Sarah, once the source of his joy, now felt like a suffocating weight around his neck. He began to see her true nature, selfish and cruel, only ever concerned with her own desires. The boy who once dreamed of adventure and love now felt trapped in a nightmare of his own making. "I can't do this anymore," he finally admitted to Sarah one evening, his voice shaking. "I need to make things right." "What are you talking about?" she snapped, her face darkening. "You can't go back. You did this for us." "For you," he corrected, his heart heavy. "I don't even recognize myself anymore." The confrontation escalated, and Ethan's world shattered further as Sarah revealed her true self, a manipulative force that cared little for his well-being. In a fit of rage, he realized he had sacrificed everything for a person who never truly loved him. In the days that followed, Ethan withdrew from Sarah, the weight of his actions pressing down on him like a leaden blanket. He was alone, haunted by memories of laughter turned to screams. The town buzzed with whispers, the tragedy becoming a cautionary tale. Finally, he reached a breaking point. Alone in his room, Ethan looked at his reflection in the mirror, searching for the boy he once was. But the eyes staring back at him were those of a stranger. He couldn't bear the pain any longer. With a heavy heart, he made his way to the river where he and Sarah had shared so many stolen moments. The water sparkled in the moonlight, a beautiful yet deceptive sight. Standing at the edge, he thought about his parents, their love, their sacrifices, and the warmth of their embrace. In a moment of clarity, he realized the depth of his mistake. His heart ached as he recalled the love they had given him, the values they instilled. He wished he could turn back time, to embrace them one last time, to tell them how much they meant to him. But it was too late. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the cool night air fill his lungs. "I'm sorry," he whispered into the night, tears streaming down his face. He stepped forward, surrendering to the water that promised to wash away his pain. In those final moments, he felt an overwhelming sense of peace, as if he were finally free from the chains that bound him. As the water enveloped him, he closed his eyes, letting the darkness take him away. The town mourned the loss of a bright young man, and whispers of tragedy turned to silence. Lisa and Mark, heartbroken, never understood the depth of Ethan's despair, nor the choices he made. They were left with memories, a life cut short, and a haunting question of what could have been. In the end, love had claimed its price, and Ethan became another lost soul, a cautionary tale whispered through the town, forever remembered in the hearts of those who loved him.